Captain Lee Minho pressed his face against the cold viewport of his small reconnaissance ship. Below him, the human colony of New Busan was burning. Orange flames danced across what used to be homes where families lived, schools where children learned, and markets where people gathered to buy food and talk with friends. The attack had come without any warning. Minho had been on a routine patrol mission when his ship's alarms started screaming. By the time he reached the colony, it was too late. The Vorac Empire's black warships were already flying away, leaving behind only death and destruction. Minho walked through the settlement's main street, stepping carefully around pieces of broken buildings. His boots made soft sounds on the ground covered with ash and debris. The silence was the worst part. No voices calling out, no children playing, no sounds of daily life. Just the crackling of fires that were slowly dying out. He found them in the central plaza where people used to celebrate festivals and hold community meetings. Men, women, and children lay motionless on the ground. Their bodies told the story of what happened here. The Vorac had not just destroyed buildings. They had murdered everyone they could find. Lieutenant Park Ji-won, his communications officer, ran up to him with tears streaming down her face. She was young, maybe 25 years old, and this was her first time seeing such terrible violence. "Captain," she said, her voice shaking. "I've been trying to contact the other colonies. Harmony, station isn't responding. New Seoul Colony has gone completely silent too." Minho felt his heart sink. 3 colonies. 3 peaceful settlements full of farmers, teachers, engineers, and families. All destroyed in a single day. He picked up a small toy from the ground. It was a stuffed bear, probably dropped by a child who was running away. The toy was covered in dust but otherwise undamaged. Somewhere a little boy or girl would never play with it again. "Why did they do this?" Ji-won asked. "We never hurt them. We never even met them before today." Minho had studied the Vorac Empire during his military training. They were an old and powerful civilization that controlled many star systems. For over 1,000 years they had been conquering other species and forcing them to become slaves. The Vorac believed they were superior to everyone else in the galaxy. "They wanted to send us a message," Minho said quietly. "They think humans are weak. They think we will surrender if they scare us enough." He walked over to the colony's communication center. Most of the equipment was damaged, but he managed to find one working transmitter. He needed to tell Earth Command what had happened. Here. As he worked to repair the device, he thought about human history. The Vorac had studied human military power. They counted human spaceships and weapons. They looked at human technology. But they never studied human nature. They never learned about the wars humans fought on Earth. They never read about how humans responded when their families were threatened. They never understood that humans could be peaceful and friendly, but also incredibly dangerous when pushed too far. The transmitter finally crackled to life. Minho could hear the voice of Admiral Kim Do-hyun from Earth Command asking for his report. "Admiral," Minho said, looking out at the destroyed colony one more time. "The Vorac have attacked 3 of our outer colonies. They killed everyone. Men, women, children. Everyone." There was silence on the other end of the transmission. Then Admiral Kim's voice came back, harder than before. "How many survivors?" The Admiral asked. "None, sir. They murdered them all." Another long silence. Minho could imagine the Admiral thinking about what this meant. The Vorac had not just attacked military targets. They had committed genocide against innocent civilians. "Captain," Admiral Kim finally said, "return to Earth immediately. Bring back any evidence you can find of what happened there." "Yes, sir." "Admiral, there's something else." Before they left, the Vorac sent us a message. They said humanity must surrender to their empire, or they will destroy all our colonies. Minho heard the Admiral take a deep breath. When he spoke again, his voice was cold as space itself. "Captain, tell me exactly what you saw today. I need to know everything." As Minho described the burning buildings, the murdered families, and the complete destruction of 3 peaceful colonies, he realized something important was happening. The Admiral was not asking these questions because he was planning to surrender. He was asking because he was planning for war. Sir, Minho said. What should I tell them if the Vorthak contact us again? Tell them they wanted to see what humans are made of, Admiral Kim replied. Tell them they are about to find out. The transmission ended, leaving Minho alone with the silence of the dead colony. He looked up at the stars where somewhere the Vorthak leaders were probably celebrating their victory. They thought they had frightened humanity into submission. They had made the biggest mistake in their empire's 1,000-year history. Admiral Kim Do-hyun stood in front of the huge screen in Earth Command's main meeting room. Behind him, pictures showed the burned colonies where thousands of humans had been killed. The room was filled with government leaders, military officers, and representatives from every nation on Earth. The Vorthak think they can scare us into giving up, Admiral Kim said, his voice strong and clear. They believe we are weak because we choose peace over war. They are wrong. President Yoon Haran sat in the front row, watching the terrible images from the destroyed colonies. She had been in office for only 2 years and had spent most of her time working on peaceful projects like building new schools and hospitals. Now she had to make decisions about war. How many people died? She asked quietly. 15,732, Admiral Kim answered, including 412 children. The room became very quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. The Vorthak had not just attacked soldiers or military bases. They had murdered families in their homes. Dr. Kang Yujin, Earth's best military planner, stood up from her seat. She was a small woman with gray hair, but everyone respected her intelligence. During the last war between Earth's nations 20 years ago, her strategies had ended the fighting quickly and saved many lives. Admiral, she said, what do we know about Vorthak military tactics? They fight like most galactic species, Admiral Kim replied. Big ships in straight lines. They attack directly and expect their enemies to do the same. They have been using the same methods for centuries. Dr. Kang smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Then they have never fought humans before. Within 6 hours of the news reaching Earth, something amazing began to happen. People all over the planet started changing their daily lives. Factory workers who made cars and computers began making weapons and military equipment instead. Shipyards that built peaceful exploration vessels started building warships. In the city of Seoul, old veteran Park Jin-ho heard the news on television while eating dinner with his grandson. Park Jin-ho was 75 years old and had fought in Earth's last great war decades ago. He thought his fighting days were over. Grandfather, his grandson asked, are you going back to the military? Park Jin-ho looked at the pictures on the television showing the dead children from the colonies. Yes, he said simply. Some things are more important than being old. All across Earth, similar scenes were happening. Retired soldiers were putting on their old uniforms. Engineers were designing new weapons. Pilots were volunteering to fly dangerous missions. Even people who had never been in the military were asking how they could help. The Vorthak had made one terrible mistake. They thought humans were like the other species they had conquered. Those species had given up when faced with overwhelming force. But humans were different. When humans were threatened, they did not surrender. They fought harder. In the underground military factories beneath Tokyo, workers were building new types of spaceships. These ships were smaller and faster than traditional warships. They could attack quickly and then disappear before the enemy could fight back. The Vorthak expect us to line up our big ships and fight them directly, explained Chief Engineer Lee Min-soo to his team. Instead, we will hit them from all directions like angry wasps. Meanwhile, in the military training centers, something unusual was happening. Young people were arriving to volunteer faster than the military could process them. The waiting lists to join the Space Navy grew longer every day. Sergeant Choi Minji was working at a recruitment center in Busan. She had been in the military for 10 years and had never seen anything like this. Why do you want to join? She asked, a young man who looked barely 18 years old. My sister was planning to move to New Seoul Colony next year, he answered. She wanted to be a teacher there. Now she will never get the chance because the Vorthak killed all the teachers. President Yoon Haran spoke to the entire planet from the Unity building in Geneva. Billions of people watched on television and computer screens as she stood behind the podium where so many peaceful announcements had been made. For 50 years, humanity has reached out to the galaxy in friendship, she said. We have shared our knowledge, our culture, and our hope for a peaceful future. The Vorac have answered our friendship with murder. She paused and looked directly into the camera. When she spoke again, her voice was different, harder. The Vorac believe they can terrorize us into slavery. They think that by killing our children, we will bow down to them. They have never studied human history. They do not know what happens when you threaten a human family. In military bases around the world, new soldiers were learning to fight in ways no other species had ever imagined. They studied ancient human battles from thousands of years ago. They learned about surprise attacks, deception, and fighting in small groups. Remember the outer rim became the words painted on spaceships and worn on uniforms. It was humanity's promise that the murdered colonists would not be forgotten. The Vorac thought they had won an easy victory by destroying 3 small colonies. They expected humans to send messages begging for peace. Instead, humanity was preparing for total war. The human attack began at exactly 6 a.m, Universal Standard Time. Fleet Admiral Choi Tae-hyung sat in his command chair on the bridge of the Earth warship Vengeance. Around him, officers worked quietly at their stations, watching screens that showed 6 different Vorac worlds. All fleets report ready, Admiral, said his communications officer. Admiral Choi looked at the main screen showing Zarian Prime, the strongest Vorac military base. The alien planet was protected by hundreds of warships and defensive stations. The Vorac commanders probably felt very safe there. Begin the attack, Admiral Choi ordered simply. The Vorac were expecting a normal space battle. In their experience, enemies would bring their biggest ships and fight directly, ship against ship, until one side gave up or was destroyed. They had fought this way for 1,000 years against dozens of different species. But humans were different. Instead of large battleships, swarms of small, fast human vessels appeared from all directions around Zarian Prime. The Vorac defenders tried to turn their heavy weapons toward the attackers, but the human ships were too quick and too many. Captain Kim Soo-young commanded one group of these small attack ships. She had learned to fly on Earth where terrible storms and dangerous weather taught pilots to react quickly to any situation. Space combat felt easy compared to flying through a hurricane. Remember, hit fast and disappear, she told her squadron over the radio. Don't stay still long enough for them to target you. Her ships dove toward a Vorac destroyer like birds attacking a large animal. They fired their weapons and then scattered in different directions before the enemy could shoot back. The Vorac ship, designed to fight other large vessels, could not defend itself against so many small, fast attackers. On another Vorac world called Mordun, Commander Shin Yeji was leading a rescue mission to free human prisoners. Intelligence reports said the Vorac were keeping captured colonists in research facilities on the planet's surface. Yeji's team landed their ships in a forest near the prison compound. They moved quietly through the trees, using skills learned from Earth's special forces. The Vorac guards were not expecting ground attacks. Their military focused on space battles, not fighting on planets. When Yeji's team reached the prison, what they found made them angry beyond words. The Vorac had been using human prisoners for medical experiments. Men, women, and children had been treated like laboratory animals. The aliens wanted to understand how human bodies worked so they could find better ways to kill them. Sir, one of Yeji's soldiers said, his voice shaking with rage, there are children in here. Some of them are barely 5 years old. Yeji looked at the small cells where human families had been kept. She saw the equipment the Vorac had used to hurt innocent people. At that moment, any thought of showing mercy to their enemies disappeared. Free all the prisoners, she ordered, then destroy everything. Make sure no evidence of these experiments survives. She activated her communicator to contact the fleet. This is Commander Yeji to all units. I'm sending you images of what we found here. No quarter for the enemy. Show them exactly the same mercy they showed our people. The message spread quickly, through the human forces. Soldiers and pilots who had been trying to fight cleanly and follow the rules of war changed their tactics. The Vorthak had chosen to be monsters. Now they would face the consequences. Colonel Bei Jinhuan was leading ground forces on the Vorthak industrial world of Kelthara. The planet's surface was covered with toxic chemicals and poisonous air that would kill most alien species within minutes. The Vorthak defenders were wearing heavy protective suits and could barely move. But humans were different. They came from Earth, a world with deadly storms, poisonous creatures, and dangerous environments. Human soldiers could fight effectively in conditions that would disable their enemies. Use the environment against them, Colonel Bei told his troops. They need those suits to survive. We don't. His soldiers moved like ghosts through the poisonous landscape, attacking Vorthak positions and disappearing before the enemy could respond. The aliens, trapped in their heavy protective gear, could not match human speed and flexibility. Back in space, the Vorthak military commanders were starting to panic. Their traditional battle tactics were completely useless against human fighting methods. Admiral Zethkol, the Vorthak fleet commander at Zerion Prime, tried to contact other Vorthak bases for help. All units fall back to defensive formation, he ordered. Maintain distance from enemy vessels. But the humans were not fighting like any enemy the Vorthak had ever faced. Instead of celebrating their victories and stopping to regroup, human forces kept attacking relentlessly. They seemed to be everywhere at once. Captain Li Jiwu commanded a human destroyer that was hunting down fleeing Vorthak ships. His crew had been fighting for 18 hours straight, but they showed no signs of stopping. Sir, enemy vessel is requesting permission to surrender, his communications officer reported. Captain Li thought about the burned colonies, the murdered children, the torture chambers his fellow humans had discovered. No surrender accepted, he said coldly. Continue the attack. The Vorthak had started this war by showing no mercy to innocent human families. Now they were learning what happened when humans decided to show no mercy in return. The age of Vorthak dominance was ending, and they were beginning to understand the terrible mistake they had made. High Commander Zelthax of the Vorthak Empire stood in his command center on the capital world of Vorthak Prime. The screens around him showed red warning lights and desperate messages from across his territory. In just 3 months, the humans had destroyed half of his military forces and captured dozens of important worlds. His communication officer, a nervous young Vorthak named Krelvin, approached with shaking hands. High Commander, we have managed to establish contact with the human fleet. Their Admiral Kim Sung-ho is willing to speak with you. Zelthax straightened his tall gray body and activated the communication system. On the main screen, a human face appeared. Admiral Kim looked calm and patient, like someone discussing the weather rather than the destruction of an empire. Hi, Commander, Admiral Kim said politely. I understand you wish to discuss terms. Zelthax tried to maintain his dignity, even though his empire was collapsing around him. For 1,000 years, the Vorthak had been the strongest power in this part of the galaxy. No species had ever challenged them successfully. What are your demands? Zelthax asked, trying to sound like he still had some power to negotiate. Admiral Kim's expression did not change. Complete and unconditional surrender of all Vorthak military forces, payment for damages to human colonies and the families of everyone you killed, public trials for all Vorthak leaders who ordered attacks on civilians, complete dismantling of your military. The High Commander felt his heart stop beating for a moment. The humans were not asking for tribute or territory, like other species had done in the past. They were demanding the complete end of the Vorthak Empire. Impossible, Zelthax replied angrily. We still have over 2 million soldiers and thousands of warships. You cannot defeat the entire Vorthak Empire. Admiral Kim smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. High Commander, you seem to misunderstand the situation. We are not trying to defeat your empire. We are erasing it from existence. The transmission ended, leaving Zelthax staring at a blank screen. He turned to his military advisors, hoping they would tell him the human was bluffing. Instead, he saw fear in their eyes. How many of our fleets are still responding to communications? He asked. General Yexthor, his oldest military advisor, checked his reports with trembling claws. 17% High Commander. The humans are not just defeating our forces, they are hunting down every ship, every escape pod, every supply station. Nothing is being allowed to survive. On the other side of the galaxy, Captain Lee Hee-jin was leading humanity's intelligence division in a systematic search for every Vorthak installation. Her team had spent months studying captured Vorthak computers and interrogating prisoners to create a complete map of the Empire. "We have located another hidden fleet near the Corvin system," she reported to Admiral Kim. 300 ships, trying to hide in an asteroid field. "Send the 5th attack group to deal with them," Admiral Kim replied. "Make sure none escape." This was how humans fought total war. They did not just defeat armies in battle and then go home. They eliminated every trace of their enemy's ability to fight back. No hidden bases would be allowed to survive. No secret fleets would be permitted to rebuild. No Vorthak leader would escape justice. General Park Min-soo was overseeing the liberation of worlds that had been enslaved by the Vorthak Empire. Unlike their former oppressors, humans treated conquered populations with fairness and respect. The freed alien species were amazed by human behavior. "Why do you not make us your slaves?" asked Ambassador Vel Nara of the Helgon people, whose world had been under Vorthak control for 3 centuries. "Because we are not the Vorthak," General Park replied simply. "We fight to protect innocent people, not to hurt them." But Vorthak war criminals found no such mercy. Human military courts were processing thousands of cases involving Vorthak officers who had committed crimes against civilians. The trials were fair but thorough, and the sentences were severe. Commander Shin Yeji, who had discovered the torture chambers on Mordun, was now hunting down the Vorthak scientists who had conducted experiments on human prisoners. She had a special list of names, and she was crossing them off one by one. "Dr. Velkax is hiding on the moon of Xerion Prime," her intelligence officer reported. "He was the one who performed brain surgery on the children from New Sol Colony." Yeji's face became hard as stone. "Prepare an assault team. This one we take alive. He needs to face trial for what he did." Meanwhile, on distant worlds, Vorthak civilians were starting to understand what was happening to their empire. The news reports spoke of military defeats, but the reality was much worse. Humanity was not just winning battles. They were systematically dismantling everything the Vorthak had built over 1,000 years. Civilian Administrator Morkael read the latest reports from his office on a Vorthak colony world. Human fleets were now only 2 days away from his planet. Unlike military worlds that were being attacked, civilian worlds were being occupied and their populations were being protected. "Will they kill us all?" his assistant asked fearfully. Morkael shook his head. "No. The humans only kill those who have killed others. If we surrender peacefully, they will probably treat us better than our own government ever did." The Vorthak Empire that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries was ending not with a great final battle, but with systematic precision as humans eliminated every trace of their military power while protecting innocent lives. The great meeting hall of the Galactic Council had never been so quiet. Representatives from 47 different species sat in their assigned seats, all watching. The human delegation walked to the center of the chamber. 6 months ago, many of these aliens had barely noticed humanity. Now they watched every human movement with careful attention. Admiral Kim Tae-young wore his simple blue Earth uniform as he approached the speaking platform. Behind him walked Ambassador Lee Suman and General Park Jin-won. Their faces were calm, but everyone in the room could feel the power they represented. The Galactic Council chamber was enormous, with seats arranged in circles rising up toward the ceiling. Each species had their own section with special environments for their different needs. Some aliens breathed different gases, others needed different temperatures, but today they all shared the same feeling of nervous worry. Council Chairman Mordeth, a tall insect-like creature from the Zenthari Republic, activated his translator and spoke to the humans. "Admiral Kim Tae-young of Earth, please present your report on the conclusion of the conflict with the Vorthak Empire." Admiral Kim stepped forward and looked around the chamber. His eyes met those of representatives who had refused to help humanity when the Vorthak first attacked. Some of them looked ashamed. Others looked afraid. "The Vorthak Empire no longer exists," Admiral Kim announced in a clear, strong voice. Their military has been completely destroyed. Their war criminals have been tried and punished according to galactic law. Their former slaves have been liberated and their worlds are now free. A soft murmur ran through the chamber. Everyone had heard rumors, but having it confirmed officially was still shocking. In less than 6 months, humans had eliminated an empire that had controlled 12 star systems for over 1,000 years. Ambassador Kelveth from the Regarian Federation raised one of his forearms to speak. Admiral, what happened to the Vorac population? Surely you did not kill innocent civilians? Admiral Kim finished the question. No. The surviving Vorac population, approximately 40 million individuals, has been relocated to their original homeworld of Vorac Prime. They are under human protection and supervision. Their children attend schools, their families have homes, they are treated with dignity. The ambassador looked confused. But they were your enemies. Why show them kindness? Ambassador Lee Suman stepped forward to answer. Because we are not the Vorac. We do not punish people for crimes they did not commit. We fight to protect innocent life, not to destroy it. Council Chairman Mordeth shifted nervously in his seat. Admiral, the Council must ask about humanity's intentions now that you possess such extensive military capabilities. Admiral Kim smiled, but his eyes remained serious. Our intentions are the same as they have always been. We came to the stars seeking friendship, knowledge, and peaceful trade with other species. That has not changed. He paused and activated a holographic display that showed human patrol fleets stationed throughout the former Vorac territories. The ships were not aggressive warships, but vessels designed to protect trade routes and provide aid to developing worlds. However, Admiral Kim continued, we have learned an important lesson. Peace must be protected. The Vorac chose to answer our friendship with genocide against our people. You all witnessed what happened to them as a result. In the section reserved for the Helian Trade Alliance, Ambassador Velnara remembered how the Vorac had enslaved her people for 3 centuries. Her planet had been liberated by human forces just 2 months ago. The humans freed my world, she said, standing up in her section. They could have made us their subjects, but instead they helped us rebuild our government and gave us back our independence. Their actions speak louder than their words. Several other representatives nodded in agreement. The Corvin Mining Consortium, the Deltaran agricultural worlds, and the Nexian research colonies had all been freed from Vorac control. None of them had been forced to serve humanity, but not everyone in the chamber felt grateful. Ambassador Zekimor from the Saurian Military Collective had been considering an alliance with the Vorac before their sudden destruction. Now he was worried about human power growing too strong. What if we disagree with human policies? He asked boldly. What if we do not want human protection? General Park Jinwan stepped forward to answer this question. His voice was calm but carried an edge of warning. Every species has the right to govern itself as it sees fit, he said. We will not interfere in your internal affairs or force you to accept our help. But remember what happened to the Vorac. They chose to murder innocent human families. They chose to conduct torture experiments on our children. They chose genocide. He looked directly at Ambassador Zekimor. Choose your actions wisely. The chamber fell completely silent. Everyone understood the message. Humanity would be a good friend to peaceful species, but a terrible enemy to those who chose violence against innocents. Admiral Kim activated another display showing human colonies throughout the galaxy, now protected by patrol fleets. We return to our peaceful work of exploration, trade, and friendship. But we will never again allow our people to be slaughtered while the galaxy watches in silence. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Chairman Mordeth spoke one final time. Is there anything else the Council should know? Admiral Kim stopped at the chamber entrance and looked back. Yes. Tell your children and your children's children what happened here. Tell them that provoking humanity was the Vorac's final act. The humans left the chamber, but their message echoed in the minds of every representative present. The galaxy had learned to fear human friendship as much as human anger.